The rain hammers down on Night City like bullets, each drop refracting the neon glow into 1,000 fractured rainbows across the cracked pavement. Marcus Chen stands outside the Arasaka Tower, his cheap synth leather jacket doing absolutely nothing to keep the water out. The fabric is already soaked through, clinging to his skin like a second epidermis he desperately wants to shed. His reflection warps and distorts in the puddles at his feet. A ghost of a man, hollow-eyed and gaunt, 27 years old but looking closer to 40 after 3 years of grinding through Night City's meat grinder. The tower itself is an obscenity of corporate power. A chrome and glass phallus stabbing into the polluted sky, so tall that the top floors disappear into the toxic cloud cover that perpetually chokes the city. Holographic advertisements crawl up its surface like luminescent parasites, hawking everything from brain dances to body modifications to the latest in tactical combat software. Arasaka Corporation. Building a better tomorrow, one reads. The irony so thick Marcus almost laughs. Tomorrow isn't better in Night City. Tomorrow is just today with more debt and fewer options. His augmented left hand trembles as he reaches for the entrance. Not nervousness, though Christ knows he's nervous, but a malfunction in the cheap neural interface that connects his meat brain to the barely functional Chrome. The Ripperdoc who installed it 6 months ago worked out of a basement in Kabuki, more interested in his next hit of synthetic cocaine than proper sterilization or calibration. The hand works maybe 70% of the time. The other 30% it spasms, locks up, or sends phantom pain signals that make Marcus want to saw the whole thing off at the elbow. But even broken Chrome is better than no Chrome in Night City. You need augmentations just to compete for the bottom-tier jobs. The kind that pay barely enough to afford the immunosuppressants that keep your body from rejecting the bargain basement cyberware you needed to get the job in the first place. It's a perfect closed loop of corporate exploitation, and Marcus has been circling the drain for 3 years now. The lobby doors whisper open with that expensive pneumatic hiss that screams old money and new tech. The blast of climate-controlled air hits him like a physical force. Dry, perfectly calibrated to exactly 21.5 degrees Celsius. Scrubbed of every particle of Night City's omnipresent pollution. Marcus steps inside and immediately feels like an intruder. A piece of street trash that somehow slipped past security. His boots squelch on the polished marble floor, leaving muddy footprints that a cleaning drone immediately begins erasing with quiet efficiency. The lobby is a cathedral to corporate power. The ceiling soars 50 feet overhead, decorated with slowly rotating holographic representations of Arasaka's global holdings, manufacturing plants in Neo-Tokyo, data fortresses in Berlin, military contracts displayed like trophies. The walls are actual marble, not synth marble or printed composite, but real stone quarried from somewhere that still has quarries. The reception desk is a curved monolith of black glass that probably cost more than Marcus will make in his entire lifetime. 3 receptionists sit behind it. 2 humans and 1 android, so realistic Marcus can't tell which is which until he gets closer and notices one has skin too perfect, too uniform, without the microscars and blemishes that mark real flesh. All 3 wear Arasaka's corporate uniform. Crisp white shirts, black ties, expressions of professional courtesy that don't quite reach their eyes. Marcus Chen, he says, his voice cracking slightly. When was the last time he drank water? This morning? Yesterday? I have an appointment. Conference room 7A. The android, he's pretty sure it's the one on the left, doesn't even look at a screen. Its eyes flicker with the telltale glow of processing information at speeds that would liquefy a human brain. Mr. Chen? Yes. You're expected. Elevator bank C, 73rd floor. Someone will meet you. The elevator bank is another exercise in corporate excess. 8 elevators, each one large enough to comfortably hold 30 people, their doors polished to mirror brightness. Marcus catches his reflection again and immediately wishes he hadn't. He looks like exactly what he is. A desperate man at the end of his rope, wearing 3-year-old street clothes and sporting the kind of malnourished frame that comes from choosing between food and rent too many times. The elevator arrives silently. No cheerful ding, just doors sliding open to reveal an interior paneled in real wood. Actual dead trees, varnished and preserved and turned into decoration for a box that moves corporate drones up and down. Marcus steps inside, and the doors close with that same expensive whisper. The acceleration is smooth, perfectly calibrated, the kind of engineering that costs millions to implement just so executives don't feel the G-forces during their commute. A holographic display appears, showing his ascent through the building's various divisions: finance, marketing, legal, research, and development. Each floor represents billions of eddies in revenue, thousands of employees, entire ecosystems of corporate power that most street-level people like Marcus will never even glimpse. 73 seconds. That's how long the ride takes. Marcus counts everyone, his broken hand clenching and unclenching spasmodically. The tremors are getting worse. Yesterday, he dropped a cup of coffee because his fingers locked up mid-grip. The week before that, the hand seized while he was jacked into a corporate server trying to extract some low-level payroll data for a fixer in Japantown. Nearly got flatlined by counter-intrusion software because he couldn't disconnect fast enough. He needs the eddies, needs them so badly he can taste the desperation like copper on his tongue. The doors open onto a reception area that makes the lobby look modest by comparison. The entire eastern wall is floor-to-ceiling windows offering a vista of Night City that would be breathtaking if the smog wasn't so thick. From up here, the city looks almost beautiful. A sprawling circuit board of light and movement, millions of lives reduced to glowing pixels in the corporate dark. A woman waits for him. Mid-30s, Japanese heritage, wearing a charcoal suit so perfectly tailored it has to be custom work. Her hair is pulled back in a severe bun that makes her face look sharp, predatory. Kiroshi optics gleam in her eye sockets. Top-tier models that probably cost more than Marcus's entire body is worth. When she looks at him, he can practically feel the scanning software cataloging every biometric detail. Heart rate, stress hormones, pupil dilation, the microscopic tremors in his malfunctioning hand. "Mr. Chen!" Her voice is perfectly modulated. The kind of professional courtesy that wealthy people use when addressing service workers. "I'm Tanaka Yuki, Senior Acquisition Specialist for Arasaka's Special Operations Division. Thank you for coming. Please, follow me." She doesn't wait for a response, just turns and walks down a corridor lined with abstract art that Marcus suspects is probably priceless. He follows, very aware of his squeaking boots and the water still dripping from his jacket. They pass offices with closed doors, conference rooms where meetings happen that decide the fates of thousands of people who will never know their lives were bargained away over catered lunch. Conference room 7A is exactly what Marcus expected. Large, aggressively corporate, dominated by a black glass table that could comfortably seat 20 people. The same floor-to-ceiling windows offer that same vista of the city, the rain now visible as silver streaks against the neon glow. The room smells like filtered air and expensive cologne, sterile and inhuman. "Please, sit," Tanaka gestures to a chair. The leather is real, butter soft, probably from some cloned cow in an Arasaka biofacility. Marcus sits carefully, very aware that he's leaving wet patches on furniture that costs more than his yearly income. Tanaka takes the seat across from him, placing a slim datapad on the table between them. Her fingers move across its surface with practiced efficiency, pulling up files and documents that project into the air as holographic displays. Marcus sees his own face staring back at him from what looks like a personnel file, complete with more information than should be legally accessible. Marcus Chen, age 27, born in Night City, Charter Hill District, to parents Michael Chen and Sarah Chen, both deceased as of 2074. You attended NCPD Academy at age 22, but washed out after 6 months due to, she glances at the file, inability to follow proper chain of command and repeated insubordination. Jinamam, since then you've worked as a freelance netrunner, taking mostly low-level gigs. Data extraction, security testing, the occasional surveillance job. Your current financial situation is precarious. That's one word for it. Marcus's stomach tightens, but he keeps his face neutral. She's building to something, establishing dominance through information asymmetry. It's a standard corporate negotiation tactic. He learned about it in one of the few academy classes he actually paid attention to. You have outstanding medical debt totaling 43,000 eddies from an emergency room visit last year. Collapsed lung from a failed cyberware installation. Rent arrears of 6,000 eddies. Various smaller debts to street vendors and fixers. And most significantly, a marker with the tiger claws for 17,000 eddies that you've defaulted on twice already. Marcus's jaw tightens. The tiger claw debt is the dangerous one. Street gangs don't have legal departments or collections agencies. They have enforcers with baseball bats and a tolerance for excessive violence. He's already had 2 visits. One that left him with a broken rib, another that cost him a tooth he couldn't afford to have a ripperdoc replace. The 3rd visit won't be a warning. Your total debt load is approximately 71,000 eddies, Tanaka continues, her voice remaining perfectly level. Against assets of roughly 4,000 eddies, mostly second-hand cyberware that's already failing. Your current monthly income averages around 3,000 eddies, of which approximately 4,000 goes to minimum debt payments and basic living expenses. Math doesn't work, Marcus mutters. Exactly. She allows herself a small smile. The math doesn't work. You're in a debt spiral with no realistic exit strategy. In approximately 4 months, you'll be completely insolvent. The tiger claws will make an example of you. Your landlord will evict you. And without an address, you won't be able to get even the bottom-tier jobs you currently survive on. Statistically, you'll be dead within a year. Probably 6 months. She says it so matter-of-factly, like she's discussing quarterly projections instead of his impending death. Marcus supposes that from her perspective, that's exactly what she is doing. He's a data point, a potential acquisition, a resource to be evaluated for cost-benefit analysis. Why am I here, he asks, even though he already knows. You don't get summoned to the 73rd floor of Arasaka Tower for a social call. Tanaka swipes her hand, and the holographic display shifts, showing a different kind of document. Dense with legalese and corporate terminology, but with certain sections highlighted in red. Arasaka has a program for individuals in your situation. Talented people with useful skills but limited resources. We call it the Asset Acquisition and Development Initiative, though internally it's known as the Body Program. There it is. The real reason. Marcus has heard whispers about programs like this, rumors on the street about desperate people who sell themselves to megacorps and come back as something other than human, if they come back at all. We acquire individuals like yourself, Tanaka continues, and provide comprehensive physical and neural enhancement packages. Military-grade cyberware. Subdermal armor weaves. Kerenzikov reflex boosters that make your current augmentation look like a toy. Sandevistan time dilation systems. Neural processors with processing power that would make a net-running rig jealous. Weapon integration. Toxin filters. Pain editors. Everything you'd need to operate at the absolute peak of human, or post-human, capability. She gestures and another hologram appears. This one showing a rotating 3-dimensional model of a human body that's more chrome than meat. Every major muscle group has been replaced with synthetic fibers. The skeleton is reinforced titanium alloy. The organs are a mix of bioware and mechanical systems. Even the skin is described as ballistic-grade synthetic dermis with reactive camouflage capability. The full package has a retail value of approximately 800,000 eddies, Tanaka says. Installation would normally cost another 200,000. In total, you'd be looking at 1 million eddies worth of augmentation. Obviously, that's not something someone in your financial position could ever afford through conventional means. Marcus stares at the hologram, watching the chrome body rotate slowly. It looks powerful, deadly, inhuman. What's the catch? Direct? I appreciate that. Tanaka smiles, and this time it has a predatory edge. The contract is 20 years. During that time, your body is corporate property. Legally, you are classified as an Arasaka asset, not an employee. You'll be assigned to our Special Operations Division, what the media calls corporate solos, though we prefer the term security specialists. Kodiman, your duties will include wet work, asset extraction, data recovery, counterintelligence, and whatever other tasks the corporation deems necessary. Wet work. Corporate speak for assassination. Marcus has done plenty of morally questionable things to survive in Night City, but he's never actually killed anyone. Knocked a few people unconscious during raids, maybe given someone a concussion while escaping a bad extraction, but never put a bullet in someone's head and watch their brain matter spray across a wall. You'll be provided with housing in one of our corporate arcologies, Tanaka continues. Full medical coverage, including maintenance and upgrades for your cyberware. A salary of 10,000 eddies monthly, though that's largely symbolic since housing and food will be provided. Most importantly, all your existing debts will be cleared immediately upon contract signing. The Tiger Claws will receive their 17,000 eddies plus interest. Your medical debt will be settled. Your rent paid current. You'll start with a completely clean slate. It sounds too good to be true, which means it definitely is. There's always a hook with corpse, always some clause buried in the fine print that lets them screw you in ways you didn't even know were possible. What happens if I want out? Marcus asks. Say I sign up. You install 1,000,000 eddies worth of chrome in me, and then a year later, I decide I don't want to be an Arasaka attack dog anymore. What then? Tanaka's smile doesn't waver. I'm glad you asked. Transparency is important in these arrangements. If you attempt to break contract or desert your assignment, several security measures activate. First, your neural processor will receive a termination signal that permanently disables all installed cyberware. Second, the subdermal explosive charges we install near your heart and brainstem will detonate. Death is instantaneous and irreversible. Third, though this is somewhat redundant given the first two measures, a kill squad will be dispatched to ensure asset termination. She says it so casually, like she's describing a warranty policy. Marcus feels his stomach drop. They're not hiring him, they're buying him. Every augmented muscle fiber, every synthetic bone, every rewired neural pathway. He won't be an employee, he'll be equipment. A very expensive gun that happens to have human consciousness trapped inside it. There is, however, a completion bonus, Tanaka adds, swiping to another document. If you successfully fulfill your 20-year contract, you receive a severance package of 5,000,000 eddies. Additionally, all installed cyberware becomes your legal property. You'd be free to leave Arasaka and pursue any employment you choose or simply retire. 5,000,000 eddies is enough to live comfortably for the rest of your natural life, even in Night City. 5,000,000. The number hangs in the air between them like a hallucination. Marcus has never had more than 10,000 eddies at one time. 5,000,000 is generational wealth, the kind of money that could buy a house in the actually safe parts of Night City or a ticket off-world to somewhere that isn't a capitalist nightmare. If he survives 20 years. That's the real question, isn't it? How many corporate solos actually make it 2 decades? The work burns people out. Not just the chrome, but the psychological toll of being a professional killer, of doing things that would break most people. The suicide rate among corporate soldiers is astronomical, assuming they don't get flatlined on some extraction job first. How many people complete the full contract? Marcus asks. Tanaka's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in those Kiroshi optics. Approximately 37% of asset acquisition contractors complete their full term. Another 41% are killed in action during the contract period. The remaining 22% are terminated for various contract violations or medical unfitness. So roughly 1 in 3 chance of actually making it to that 5,000,000 eddies. The rest end up dead, or worse. Those are terrible odds, the kind of numbers that should send any rational person running for the exit. But Marcus isn't a rational person. He's a desperate one. And desperate people don't have the luxury of good options. His broken hand spasms again, fingers curling into a claw before slowly relaxing. How long does he have before this cheap chrome poisons his whole system? 6 months? A year? The immunosuppressants are already bankrupting him. Last month he couldn't afford the full prescription and had to cut his doses in half, gambling that his immune system wouldn't completely reject the foreign metal and plastic invading his flesh. He thinks about the Tiger Claws, about the enforcer who promised that next time they'd start with his fingers, work their way up to important body parts. He thinks about his landlord's increasingly threatening messages, about the eviction notice that's probably already posted on his door. He thinks about his sister Maya out in the Badlands. The last message he sent her 3 months ago that she never answered. She got out before Night City could really sink its claws in. Smart girl. Smarter than him. What's the process? He hears himself ask as if from a distance. Say I sign. What happens next? Tanaka's smile widens fractionally. She knows she has him. Probably knew it before he even walked into the building. The meeting, the presentation, the careful reveal of information, it's all theater. He was always going to sign. The debt, the failing chrome, the ticking clock of his own mortality, he was hooked the moment he walked through those lobby doors. The process begins immediately, she says, pulling up another holographic display. This one shows a timeline, dense with medical terminology and procedural steps. You'll be taken to our medical facility, sub-level 9 of this building. Initial evaluation takes approximately 6 hours. We'll do full body scans, neural mapping, genetic sequencing, psychological assessment. Then we begin the installation process. How long does that take? 4 weeks for the primary installations. Basic cybernetics, skeletal reinforcement, muscle replacement, organ upgrades. You'll be under general anesthesia for most of it, though there are periods where you'll need to be conscious for neural calibration. After the first month, you enter a 6-week recovery and training period where you learn to use your new capabilities. Additional installations and upgrades happen throughout your contract as needed or as new technology becomes available. 4 weeks of surgery. Marcus tries to imagine what that means, what it feels like to have your body systematically disassembled and rebuilt. They'll cut him open, scoop out his organic parts like they're cleaning out a pumpkin, replace everything with corporate-approved hardware. When he wakes up, will he even be the same person? How much can you replace before you stop being you? Many contractors experience significant psychological adjustment challenges, Tanaka adds, as if reading his thoughts. Those Karoshi optics probably are reading him, analyzing micro-expressions and stress responses in real time. The dysphoria can be intense. You'll look in a mirror and see a stranger. Your proprioception will be completely different. You'll be stronger, faster, but also heavier, denser. Food will taste different because we replace your digestive system. Sex will feel different because we install neural pleasure editors. Sleep will be different because we modify your circadian regulation. Everything changes. But you provide psychological support, Marcus says, trying to find something reassuring in this nightmare he's walking into. We provide medication, Tanaka corrects. Mood stabilizers, anti-anxiety drugs, dissociation suppressants. Some contractors find therapy helpful, and we do have staff psychologists. But honestly, Mr. Chen, most people adjust through sheer necessity. You learn to live with what you've become, because the alternative is dwelling on what you've lost, and that way lies madness. She says it so bluntly, without any attempt at corporate spin or euphemism. Marcus almost appreciates the honesty. At least she's not pretending this is anything other than what it is, selling his humanity for another shot at survival. The tablet slides across the table toward him. The contract glows on the screen, page after page of dense legal text. Marcus scrolls through it, understanding maybe 1 word in 10. Clauses about property rights and corporate assets. Sections on authorized use of lethal force. Paragraphs detailing the explosive countermeasures installed to prevent desertion. Appendices listing all the ways Arasaka can legally use and abuse him for the next 2 decades. His hand hovers over the signature field. Real hand, not the chrome one. The flesh trembles slightly. Last piece of him that's still entirely human, and he's about to use it to sign away everything else. Once you sign, Tanaka says quietly, there's no going back. The contract is ironclad. Arasaka's legal department has spent decades ensuring these agreements hold up in every jurisdiction worldwide. You'll be ours, Mr. Chen. Completely. Is that something you can live with? Can he? Marcus honestly doesn't know. But he knows what happens if he doesn't sign. The slow spiral into complete destitution, the inevitable violence, the anonymous death in some gutter where even the cleaning drones won't bother with his corpse. At least this way he has a chance. 37%. Better odds than he has right now. Marcus signs. The signature field glows green, acknowledging his biometric data. The contract locks, immutable and binding. Somewhere in Arasaka's vast data fortresses, his name gets added to a list of assets. Human beings who sold themselves for the promise of power and money. Tanaka stands, extending her hand. Welcome to Arasaka, Mr. Chen. Or should I say, Unit 7 to 7-3 Alpha. You? That's your new designation. Your legal name remains for public records and external communications, but internally you'll be referred to by asset number. It helps maintain operational security and professional distance. Marcus stands on numb legs and shakes her hand. Her grip is firm, professional, and he can feel the texture of her palm. High-grade synthetic skin over what's probably a titanium endoskeleton. She's chrome too, maybe mostly chrome. Everyone in this building probably is. Meat is just packaging for the hardware that actually matters. I'll escort you to medical now, Tanaka says, releasing his hand. Do you have any personal effects you need to collect? Family to notify? Marcus thinks about his apartment. 100-square-foot box in a Watson tenement building filled with cheap furniture and cheaper memories. Nothing worth going back for. His sister doesn't want to hear from him anyway. Her silence has made that clear. He has no friends. Not really. Contacts, business associates, people he's worked with, but no one who'd actually care if he disappears into Arasaka's chrome machinery. No, he says, nothing. Very well, this way. They exit the conference room and head toward a different elevator bank, this one requiring Tanaka's biometric authorization to activate. The doors open onto a car that's purely functional. No wood paneling or luxury touches, just brushed steel and harsh LED lighting. They descend, the numbers counting down past the ground floor into the sublevels where Arasaka keeps its sensitive operations away from public eyes. Sublevel 9 is a medical facility that looks like it was designed for battlefield trauma surgery. The walls are white ceramic tiles that can be easily sterilized. The air is cold and smells strongly of antiseptic. Medical staff move with practiced efficiency, all wearing Arasaka-branded scrubs and the kind of augmented precision that comes from cybernetic enhancement. They've done this hundreds of times before, taken baseline humans and turned them into corporate weapons. Mr. Chen, I'll leave you here, Tanaka says as they enter the intake area. The medical team will handle everything from this point forward. If you complete your contract successfully, I'll likely see you again at your 20-year review. Good luck, Unit 7 to 7 and a 3 Alpha. She leaves without waiting for a response, her expensive shoes clicking away down the corridor. Marcus stands alone in the intake area, surrounded by medical equipment he doesn't understand and staff who look at him like he's already just another piece of hardware waiting to be installed. Marcus Chen, a doctor approaches. A man in his 50s with extensive cranial augmentation visible beneath his thin hair. I'm Dr. Alvarez, Chief Cybernetic Surgeon for the Special Operations Division. I'll be handling your primary installations. Please, come with me. He leads Marcus through a series of rooms, each one more intimidating than the last. The first is a scanning suite, where they make him strip down to his underwear and stand inside a cylindrical chamber that hums with active sensors. Lasers map every centimeter of his body, while screens display cross-sections of his internal organs, his skeletal structure, his neural pathways. The cheap augmentation in his left arm shows up as a crude red blob against the otherwise organic blue-green of his tissue. Dr. Alvarez mutters, studying the scans. That's some truly terrible work. Who installed this? Ripperdoc in Kabuki, Marcus says. Guy named Victor. Victor Vector actually does decent work usually. This must be from later, after his decline. The doctor makes notes on a tablet. Well, we'll be removing it entirely during the first procedure. Can't integrate quality systems with this kind of baseline garbage. You'll actually have better functionality post-surgery even before we install the replacement. They move to a neural mapping suite where they attach dozens of electrodes to Marcus's scalp and have him perform various cognitive tasks while machines measure his brain activity. Memory tests, reflex assessments, personality inventories. They're creating a baseline, mapping exactly who Marcus Chen is right now so they can measure how much he changes. The psychological evaluation is the most uncomfortable part. A therapist, or maybe a psychologist, Marcus isn't sure of the difference, asks him increasingly personal questions about his childhood, his relationships, his fears and desires. Do you have suicidal thoughts? Have you ever experienced dissociation? How would you rate your empathy on a scale of 1 to 10? Would you describe yourself as loyal to authority? Marcus answers as honestly as he can, knowing that lying probably doesn't matter. The neural scan already told them everything important about his psychological makeup. This is just confirming the data. 6 hours later, they finally let him rest in a small recovery room. A nurse brings him a meal. Actual food, not NutriPaste or vat-grown protein sludge, but real chicken and vegetables that taste shockingly good after months of street vendor synth food. They want him healthy for the surgery, building up his strength before they tear him apart. Dr. Alvarez returns as Marcus finishes eating. We've completed the baseline evaluation. You're approved for the full special operations package. We'll begin the first surgery tomorrow morning at dose 600. I need to walk you through what's going to happen so you can provide informed consent for each procedure. He pulls up a holographic display showing the same chrome body Marcus saw earlier. We start with skeletal reinforcement. We'll make incisions along your major bones and inject a titanium ceramic compound that bonds at the molecular level with your existing bone structure. This makes your skeleton approximately 4 times stronger than baseline human, capable of withstanding impacts and stresses that would shatter organic bone. You'll be under general anesthesia for this. Takes about 8 hours. The display shifts, showing muscle groups being systematically removed. Next is muscular replacement. We remove your organic muscle tissue and replace it with synthetic fiber bundles. These provide approximately 3 times the strength of biological muscle in the same volume, with much faster reaction times and no fatigue chemicals to build up. This is the longest procedure, roughly 30 hours. We do it in 3 10-hour sessions with recovery periods in between. Marcus's mouth goes dry. 30 hours of having his muscles cut out and replaced. He tries to imagine it and can't. His brain refuses to process the concept. After musculature, we move to organs. Dr. Alvarez continues. Your heart gets replaced with a Biotechnica artificial model that's more efficient and never fails. Lungs with increased capacity and built-in toxin filters. Stomach and intestines with enhanced nutrient extraction. Liver with rapid processing for drugs and alcohol. Kidneys with superior filtration. We keep your brain, obviously, and your reproductive organs if you want, though I should note, those get disconnected from your hormone systems, which we regulate artificially. They're going to scoop out everything inside him and replace it with corporate hardware. When they're done, what will be left that's actually Marcus? Just his brain, floating in a chrome shell, piloting a body that isn't his. Dermal armor comes next, the doctor says. We install a subdermal weave of ballistic fibers beneath your skin. Makes you resistant to small arms fire. Won't stop a high-caliber round, but knife attacks and pistol shots will bounce right off. We also install reactive camouflage in the outer dermis. Lets you blend with your environment, though it's not true invisibility. The display keeps shifting, showing system after system being installed. Neural processors, reflex boosters, weapon integration points, a pain editor that can completely shut off his ability to feel physical damage, toxin filters, respiratory upgrades, ocular replacements with targeting software and infrared capability. The total installation process takes 4 weeks, Dr. Alvarez concludes. You'll spend about 60% of that time under anesthesia. The rest you'll be conscious for calibration and testing. I won't lie to you, Mr. Chen. The conscious periods are extremely uncomfortable. Your body will fight the changes. Your brain will insist something is terribly wrong. But we'll manage your pain and provide psychological support. When I wake up, Marcus asks, his voice barely above a whisper, will I still be me? Dr. Alvarez is quiet for a moment. That's a philosophical question I'm not qualified to answer. Physically, you'll be almost entirely different. Neurologically, your baseline personality and memories should remain intact, though the trauma of the process and the changes in your neurochemistry may affect your emotional responses and behavior patterns. Many contractors report feeling disconnected from their previous identity. Some embrace it as liberation from their former limitations. Others struggle with a sense of loss. He doesn't mention the ones who can't handle it at all, who wake up in a chrome body and immediately try to claw their way out of their own skin. Marcus has heard rumors about contractors who went cyberpsycho during the installation process, who had to be put down like rabid dogs before they hurt anyone. Get some rest, Dr. Alvarez says, heading for the door. Tomorrow your old life ends and your new one begins. I suggest you use this time to make peace with whoever Marcus Chen was, because by this time, next month, he'll be gone. The doctor leaves Marcus alone in the recovery room. There's a mirror on the wall, probably standard medical equipment, but right now it feels accusatory. Marcus stands and walks over to it, studying his reflection. Thin face, hollow cheeks, the beginnings of malnutrition visible in his skin tone, cheap clothes hanging off an underfed frame, the bulky, crude augmentation of his left arm disrupting the lines of his body. He looks pathetic, weak, prey for a city full of predators. Tomorrow they start changing that. They'll crack him open like an egg and rebuild him as something stronger, faster, more dangerous. He'll be able to crush skulls with his bare hands, absorb gunfire and keep moving, jack into systems at speeds that would fry a normal netrunner's brain. He'll also be property, an asset. Unit 7 to 73 Alpha, owned body and soul by Arasaka Corporation for the next 20 years. Marcus raises his real hand, his human hand, the one that's still entirely flesh and bone and blood, and presses it against the mirror. He's not religious, doesn't believe in souls or afterlives or any of that comforting mythology. But some part of him feels like he's attending his own funeral, saying goodbye to the person he was. Sorry it came to this, he whispers to his reflection. Sorry I couldn't find a better way. His reflection doesn't answer. It just stares back with hollow eyes, a ghost of a man about to be exorcised from his own body. Marcus turns away from the mirror and lies down on the recovery bed. Tomorrow morning they'll pump him full of anesthesia and start cutting. Best not to think about it too hard. Best not to think about anything at all. He closes his eyes and tries to sleep, but his mind keeps circling back to the same terrifying question. What will be looking back at him when he sees his reflection 4 weeks from now? The answer, he suspects, will be a stranger wearing his name. The anesthesia takes him under like drowning in warm honey. One moment, Dr. Alvarez is fitting a mask over his face, telling him to count backward from 10. The next moment, nothing. Complete absence of consciousness, no dreams, no sense of time passing, just void. When awareness returns, it comes in fragments. Pain first. Not the sharp, acute pain of injury, but a deep, systemic ache that radiates from everywhere simultaneously. His bones hurt in ways he didn't know bones could hurt. His muscles scream messages to a brain that doesn't quite understand what it's receiving. Every nerve ending fires confused signals that don't match anything in his prior experience. Mr. Chen, can you hear me? A voice from somewhere distant. Don't try to move yet. You're in recovery from the skeletal reinforcement procedure. Everything went smoothly. Marcus tries to open his eyes, but his eyelids feel like they're made of lead. When he finally manages it, the world is a blur of white ceiling tiles and harsh fluorescent lighting. A face swims into view. A nurse, her features augmented with obvious chrome, but her expression genuinely concerned. Pain level? She asks. He tries to answer, but his throat is raw from the intubation. After several attempts, he manages a croak that might be 8. I'll increase your medication, she says, and warmth floods through his system as she adjusts his IV. The pain doesn't disappear, but it becomes distant, manageable, someone else's problem. You'll feel better in a few hours. Try to rest. Rest! As if he could do anything else. His body won't respond to his commands anyway. The neural pathways that used to control his limbs are temporarily disrupted by the trauma of surgery. He's a consciousness trapped in a body that doesn't belong to him anymore. If it ever did, time becomes meaningless. He drifts in and out of drugged sleep. Sometimes when he wakes, the nurse is there, checking vitals and adjusting medications. Sometimes it's Dr. Alvarez examining incision sites and making notes on a tablet. Once it's a different doctor, a woman with extensive cranial ports, who shines lights in his eyes and asks him questions about his name, the date, where he is. Cognitive function appears normal, she reports to someone Marcus can't see. No signs of neural damage from the procedure. We can proceed with muscular replacement on schedule. They wheel him into surgery again, and again the anesthesia drags him under. This time when he wakes, the pain is exponentially worse. Every muscle fiber in his body is screaming, except they're not his muscle fibers anymore. They've been removed, cut out and discarded like trash, replaced with synthetic bundles that his nervous system doesn't recognize as part of him. Don't try to move, Dr. Alvarez warns as Marcus instinctively tries to sit up. Your neural integration isn't complete yet. You'll just hurt yourself. But Marcus can't help it. His brain is sending movement commands, and his body is responding wrong. Too strong. Too fast. Like he's operating heavy machinery without training. His arm jerks sideways with enough force to tear the IV line out of his vein. His leg kicks and his foot punches completely through the bed railing. "Sedate him," Dr. Alvarez shouts, and hands pin Marcus down while someone jams a needle into his neck. The world goes soft and blurry around the edges. His body stops responding to his panic, forced into paralysis by pharmaceutical intervention. "This is normal," the doctor's voice comes from somewhere above him. "The neural adaptation period is always difficult. In a few days, your brain will learn to properly calibrate the output signals. For now, we keep you restrained and medicated." Days blur together in a haze of pain and drugs. They complete the muscle replacement in 3 sessions like Dr. Alvarez promised. Between sessions, Marcus lies in a medical bed, strapped down to prevent him from accidentally killing someone with his misfiring chrome limbs. Nurses rotate through, checking his vitals and changing his IV bags. Sometimes they talk to him, gentle conversation about nothing in particular. The weather outside, sports scores, entertainment gossip, anything to keep his mind engaged and prevent him from dwelling on what's happening to his body. Sometimes he hallucinates, though he's never sure if it's the drugs or genuine psychotic breaks. He sees his sister Maya standing in the corner of the room, wearing her old jacket from when they were kids. She doesn't say anything, just watches him with sad eyes. He sees his mother, dead for 3 years, sitting in the visitor's chair and knitting something he can't quite make out. He sees himself, the old Marcus, the one made of meat and bone and blood, standing at the foot of the bed and staring at the chrome abomination he's becoming. "I'm sorry," he tells these hallucinations. "I didn't know what else to do." They never answer. They just watch his transformation with expressions ranging from pity to horror. The organ replacements are easier, at least in terms of conscious experience. They keep him under for most of it. He wakes up with his chest full of mechanical parts that click and whir when he breathes. His new heart doesn't beat. It runs with a constant steady hum that he can feel resonating through his reconstructed ribcage. His lungs process air with machine-like efficiency, no longer subject to the rhythm of biological respiration. "Try breathing manually," a respiratory therapist instructs him. "Your lungs can operate automatically, but you should practice conscious control for situations where you need to regulate oxygen intake." It feels wrong. Everything feels wrong. His body is a collection of parts that don't belong together. A Frankenstein assemblage of corporate hardware running software written in meat. Every moment of consciousness is a reminder that he's become something other than human. The dermal weave installation is the worst. They have to keep him conscious for it, because the process requires his nervous system to be active for proper integration. He lies on the surgical table, paralyzed by nerve blocks but completely aware, while they make thousands of tiny incisions in his skin and thread ballistic fibers beneath the surface. It feels like being flayed alive in slow motion, his entire body becoming one giant wound. "You're doing great," Dr. Alvarez says, though his voice sounds distant through the haze of pain. "Just a few more hours." Hours. Marcus tries to retreat into his mind, to disassociate from the body being systematically violated by medical instruments. He thinks about Maya in the Badlands, wonders if she's happy out there in the dust and the wind. He thinks about his parents, tries to remember what their voices sounded like. He thinks about the person he was a month ago, before he walked into Arasaka Tower and sold himself. That person seems impossibly distant now. Like a character from a story he read once, someone he vaguely remembers but doesn't quite recognize. When they finally finish the dermal weave and let him slip into unconsciousness, Marcus dreams he's drowning in chrome. Liquid metal pours into his mouth, his nose, his eyes, filling him up from the inside until there's no room left for anything human. He tries to scream, but his lungs are full of silver and his voice is a metallic shriek that sounds nothing like him. He wakes up strapped to the bed, alarms blaring, medical staff rushing around him. His new heart is racing at dangerous speeds, his artificial lungs hyperventilating, every system in panic mode. Cyberpsychotic episode, someone reports. Administering sedatives and running full neural diagnostics. They pump him full of chemicals that force his brain into a drugged calm. A psychologist appears, a woman with kind eyes and extensive neural augmentation, who talks to him in soothing tones about acceptance and adaptation while adjusting his medication levels. What you're experiencing is called chrome rejection dysphoria, she explains. Your mind is having trouble accepting the changes to your body. It's extremely common in extensive augmentation cases. The medications will help, but ultimately you'll need to consciously choose to integrate your new physical form into your sense of self. What if I can't? Marcus asks, his words slurring from the drugs. What if I never feel like this body is mine? She's quiet for a moment. Then you learn to live with that dissonance. Many of our contractors do. You don't have to love your chrome, Mr. Chen. You just have to function with it. The alternative is psychological breakdown, and that leads to either termination or permanent institutionalization. Neither is a pleasant option. So his choices are, accept the chrome prison he's been locked into, or go insane. Some choice. But then again, he made his real choice a month ago when he signed the contract. Everything since then has just been consequences. The neural augmentation happens during the 4th week. This is the most delicate procedure, the one that carries the highest risk of permanent damage or death. They have to install processors directly into his brain, create interfaces between his organic neural tissue and the synthetic systems throughout his body. One wrong cut, one misplaced connection, and he could end up brain dead or worse, conscious but completely disconnected from reality, trapped in a vegetative state while his body continues to function on automated systems. Dr. Alvarez personally handles this surgery. I'm going to be honest with you, he says as they prep Marcus for the procedure. This is where we lose most of the contractors who don't make it. The brain is incredibly complex and incredibly fragile. We've done this thousands of times, and our success rate is above 90%. But that means roughly 1 in 10 people don't survive. If you have anything you want to say, anyone you want to contact, now would be the time. Marcus thinks about Maya, about the message he could send her. What would he even say? Sorry for disappearing? Sorry for selling myself to a megacorp? Sorry for becoming exactly the kind of corporate slave you ran away from the city to avoid? No, he says. There's no one. The surgery takes 14 hours. They keep him in a state of twilight consciousness, aware but sedated, so they can monitor his neural responses as they make connections. It feels like having his brain systematically rewired, thoughts and memories flickering as the surgeons work. Sometimes he can't remember his own name. Sometimes he remembers names that aren't his, lives that aren't his, like he's accessing someone else's memories through the new neural processors being installed. You're experiencing temporary data corruption, Dr. Alvarez explains when Marcus tries to describe the sensation. Your brain is having trouble distinguishing between its own organic memories and the initialization routines of the new hardware. It'll stabilize once the integration completes. When they finally finish and let him sleep, Marcus dreams in machine code. Binary streams of data flow through his consciousness, ones and zeros forming patterns he can somehow understand despite never having learned to read code at this level. He sees the city's network infrastructure laid out like a blueprint. Data flowing through fiber optic arteries, corporate servers glowing like suns in a digital landscape. He wakes up different. He can feel it immediately. His thoughts are clearer, faster, processing information at speeds his organic brain never could. The pain is gone, mediated by a pain editor that he can adjust with just a thought. His body responds precisely to his mental commands. No more misfiring or uncontrolled movements. Every synthetic muscle, every enhanced bone, every replaced organ feels like it belongs to him now. For the first time since signing the contract, Marcus looks in the mirror and recognizes something in the reflection. Not the person he was. That man is gone, buried somewhere in the medical waste disposal, along with his organic muscles and bones and organs. But not a complete stranger either. Something in between. Someone new. Unit 7 to 7-3 Alpha. The final 2 weeks are physical therapy and combat training. They teach him to use his new body properly, how to control his enhanced strength so he doesn't accidentally crush doorknobs or break handshakes, how to move with the speed his Kerenzikov reflex booster allows, how to integrate the weapon systems they've installed in his arms. A combat instructor named Rodriguez, herself extensively augmented, puts him through drills that would have killed his old body. 100-meter sprints in under 3 seconds, punching through concrete walls, taking rounds from a training pistol loaded with rubber bullets that bounce off his dermal armor, leaving nothing but faint bruises. "You're fast," Rodriguez says, after Marcus completes a close-quarters combat sequence in record time. "Faster than most new contractors. You're adapting well to the chrome." Am I? Marcus isn't sure. He can use the chrome, control it, fight with it. But adapting implies some kind of acceptance, some integration of his new form into his identity. He still feels like a passenger in someone else's body, is skilled at operating the controls, but never quite forgetting that this isn't really him. Maybe it never will be. Maybe he'll spend the next 20 years feeling like a stranger in his own skin. Or maybe eventually the feeling will fade, and he'll become what Arasaka made him. A weapon that used to be human. A corporate asset with just enough consciousness left to follow orders. On his last day in medical, Dr. Alvarez does a final evaluation. He runs Marcus through a comprehensive series of tests. Physical, cognitive, psychological. Checking that every system is functioning within normal parameters, that the chrome has properly integrated, that there are no signs of rejection or malfunction. "Congratulations," the doctor says when they finish. "You're officially operational. Your success rate of completing the full installation protocol is approximately 63%. Many contractors wash out during the process. You should be proud." "Proud," Marcus almost laughs. Pride requires some sense of accomplishment, some feeling that you've achieved something meaningful. All he's achieved is surviving his own transformation into a corporate product. "Tomorrow you'll be transferred to the Special Operations Training Facility," Dr. Alvarez continues. 6 weeks of tactical instruction, weapons certification, mission protocol familiarization. After that, you'll receive your first assignment. "Any questions?" "When do I get to leave the building?" Marcus asks. He hasn't seen sunlight, artificial or otherwise, in over a month. The medical facility exists in perpetual fluorescent brightness, timeless and disconnected from the city outside. "After training completion," Dr. Alvarez says, "approximately 7 weeks from now. I know it seems like a long time, but corporate security protocols are strict. We can't have contractors wandering around the city before they're fully certified and psychologically stable." Translation: they can't risk him running before they've finished programming him to be a good little attack dog. That night, Marcus lies in his recovery bed and feels the new systems running inside him. The constant hum of his artificial heart. The whisper of his enhanced lungs. The quiet background processing of his neural computer running maintenance routines while he rests. His body is a symphony of mechanical precision, every part working exactly as designed. He raises his hand. Chrome now, both of them. Synthetic muscles and reinforced bones covered in skin that can stop bullets, and studies it in the dim light. It looks human enough at first glance. The skin tone is almost right, though slightly too uniform. The proportions are natural, but when he focuses his enhanced vision, he can see the subtle differences. The lack of microscars and blemishes, the perfectly smooth texture, the faint seams where the synthetic dermis interfaces with the underlying systems. This is his hand now. These are his eyes. This is his body. For better or worse, for the next 20 years minimum, this is what he is. Tomorrow, the real work begins. The training that will teach him how to kill efficiently, how to infiltrate corporate facilities, how to extract or eliminate targets as Arasaka requires. The transformation of Marcus Chen into Unit 773 Alpha won't be complete until he's proven himself in actual operations, until he's spilled blood with these chrome hands and proven he's worth the million eddies Arasaka invested in building him. He closes his eyes, artificial eyes with targeting software and infrared capability, and tries to sleep. Tomorrow he starts becoming the thing he sold himself to be. A corporate weapon. A very expensive gun with just enough humanity left inside to pull its own trigger. In the darkness, Marcus whispers a final goodbye to the person he was and prepares to meet the person he's becoming. The transformation is complete. What comes next is learning to live with what he's become, or learning to kill with it, which amounts to the same thing in Night City.